You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran Kismar and Tom Kinezic.
It's a very special holiday edition of The Buzz. Welcome back to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast presented by Pinelands Nursery. I am Fran Kismar.
And I'm Tom Kinezic. And if we're at the point in our Native Plants Healthy Planet tenure now that I should probably start saying the episode number.
Oh,
we're on
yeah.
episode 31.
Wow.
So,
it still amazes me that
yeah.
we're at 31 in a year.
Yeah.
We're coming up on, I guess I can look at the exact date, but it was the end of February.
Yeah, end of February, early March. I forget exactly when it was, but it was right around then.
Yeah, I think it was like the last week of February that we put the intro out.
Yep.
So, you want to call that the launch? You want to make that the anniversary?
Oh, yeah. That was our...
Are we going to do something for the anniversary?
I haven't planned it. I didn't get anything for you.
I didn't get anything for you
like
either.
I said, we don't even know the exact date.
But I mean, should we have like a highlight episode? Like, should we do like a special?
We could do our very first clip show.
Ooh,
it's a lot of work for you.
that is a lot of work. We could do a clip show. I was just wondering, like, or do we have like giveaways and have like certain guests call in?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's a good idea. Something along those lines.
Maybe we can have like 3 or 4 past guests. You know, if you want to, like, I know it's still a couple months away, but people can call into the question and comment line and wish us a happy anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would be nice. So, but it's, you know, I know we really haven't done a state of the podcast, I guess, in a few episodes. It keeps growing exponentially at this point. Like, what we considered growth 5 months ago, it's a whole different standard to us today.
And that's one of the things that we get is a whole dashboard of all the statistics and how many people are listening, where they're listening from, those kind of things. And it used to be what we would do in the first day, we're now doing in like the first hour. Yeah. And then in the first 24 hours, that's the same thing, isn't it? But in the first week, now we're doing in the first day, and
what we do in a week now per episode 5 months ago is what we would hope that the episode would do in its lifespan as an episode. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy how it keeps multiplying. But you know, one of the barometers for me was when you're a top podcast on Apple Podcasts, they turn on a feature called Hosts and Guests, and you can see your photos as a host, and we had that turned on. So I was very happy.
Yeah, we started to show up on like on the suggested thing on Apple. We were out of the 60 podcasts they referenced or referred on for the nature segment, we were 58th, but we were on that list, which was an accomplishment in our eyes. So.
Significant. You know, we've been staying right around in the top 20 on Apple Podcasts and Nature, and the charts keep going well. So thanks to everyone for your support. I know we've had a couple 5-star reviews where people actually just changed what they wrote. We had a new one, Carl Loves Natives, I think, had some kind words. So
so we appreciate the reviews, and we really want to get this message out there. We think native plants are underappreciated, especially a lot of the work that these nonprofits are doing is underappreciated, and that's why we started this. So the more you can do to help spread that message and just share, like take this episode and just share it with a friend, that goes a long way. It means a lot to us.
We need to expand the circle, not so much the podcast, but the native plant circle. And I love that it started out with
and there's a lot of great conversations in our Native Plants Healthy Planet group that are starting without our prompting, which is awesome to see. There's some posts on there that I was like, oh, I should chime in on this, but then I looked and there was 9 comments that already said everything I would have said. So
I've actually, like, it's funny you said that, because there were a couple instances where I was going to comment and I chose not to because I'm enjoying seeing the conversations go on without us. And I'm like, I don't need to be a part of that conversation. I don't need to interject myself. Although I probably will at some point because that's just my personality. But I've been trying to like be hands off and let it organically just kind of grow without us facilitating it. So it's nice to see that. It's great conversations. I'm really proud of everyone. There hasn't been an argument.
No.
There hasn't been anyone saying nothing negative. Even when there's a disagreement, it's constructive and kind.
Yeah,
which is nice to see. Yeah. So hopefully we can keep that going, and even that, I think we have 10 new members this week.
Yeah,
so that keeps growing as well. So, do you want to hop into this?
I think we should.
All right.
It's hot.
All right, that's hot, and it's going to get harder and harder as we progress into the season because it's winter. Not saying things don't have winter interest. Do you want to go one? Do you have one?
I'm going to, but I do have one.
All right,
but I'm going to let you go first.
All right, so I noticed this a couple weeks ago, and I was just curious, and I actually took a picture, and I think I posted it in the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, but I went back to look, but northern bayberry, Morella pennsylvanica, formerly Myrica pennsylvanica, which is semi-evergreen in our climate. We really haven't had like super heavy frosts or extended cold freezes, so it's still showing its waxy red fall color, and it's still holding its leaves pretty well. So it's pretty striking when you're walking by a bunch of greenhouses and everything is defoliated, and then all of a sudden you're still showing a block of red.
Yeah, we had a bunch of them on wagons right out front of the office, and I walked and I'm like, man, that can't be what I think it is, but it was, and that was pretty cool to see. I
mean, in some winters, technically it is semi-evergreen. It will go completely deciduous in our climate. It just hasn't been a harsh enough winter yet, so it's still holding really good foliage. So I was happy to see that. That's a nice extra treat. Very fragrant. I can't walk by without grabbing a leaf off and breaking it and like smelling it. So it's very fragrant, very much a beach type plant, but it can take some heavier soils too. Even though it's naturally in sandy soils, it can take a little bit of salt spray, but versatile as well. So if you're thinking about adding that one to your garden,
and I just saw something else on Facebook in a different group. I can't remember, but someone was posting about it, how their mom used to make candles out of it and all that. And I know that's it's a popular fragrance for candles.
Yeah.
So, but they were going through like the old timey way of making candles. I shouldn't even brought this up because I don't remember enough. I was enough that I read a little bit, but I didn't read the whole thing. But it was something about making candles out of bayberry and how they used to do it. How they'd make it in like the old-fashioned way of candle making.
For me, it's hard to not see that plant and not think of the beach. Living in a coastal state, because you see that on the dunes along the Jersey beaches. So it's kind of hard for me not to see that and not think of the ocean. So it's a nice connection there for me. You find yourself, I'll break up the leaves, I'll start smelling it, and then in my head I'm just off somewhere else. It takes me somewhere else. All right, what do you have?
So mine was, and really I didn't have one. I've been really stuck in the office lately. Just we're working on a new website for the nursery, and that's been my life basically. Well, that and then all these other things that just have been thrown at me.
It's a crazy year-end stuff.
So I didn't necessarily have one, and then as we're sitting here, I'm like, oh yeah, why don't I talk about this? And that was Eastern Red Cedar. And another reason I was thinking maybe I'll pass on this is because we talk about Eastern Red Cedar so much on here. And especially how it smells.
But thank you for not bringing one into the office.
But what made me think of it is actually our next topic, and it's really how around here a lot of people use it to make Christmas wreath. And that's one of the things my wife was messaging me and saying, hey, you need to bring home some stuff I can make wreaths, go for some greens. And that's always one of the things I get, but I don't like making wreaths out of because it is very prickly.
It
looks prickly. Nice and can hold that color, and if it's out on the outside door, it doesn't smell up your house too much, but it really does tear up your hands.
Now, I have a question. I have a question for you. So some people actually, it is prickly. I actually get a little bit of a reaction from it. Like if I'm handling it too much, like my hands will swell a little bit. Do you get that at all?
I haven't noticed, but I haven't worked with it that much to experience it.
It's funny, some of the natural defenses some of these plants have. Like juniper will give me a little bit of a rash. Viburnum some native viburnums.
You better not use this to bring up poison ivy.
No.
Just the little insight is Fran got poison ivy, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? And it lasted for...
like 6 months.
Yeah, it was a long time. And we heard about it every day.
I had it this summer,
we
too.
still hear about it.
I had it this summer, too. And I get it really. I'm allergic to it, so I get it bad. But the problem is if I get it on my face, it won't go away. And if I get it on my arms, it's accelerated. But if I get it on my legs, not a big deal. Like my feet, but anywhere on my arms, it just seems like it's horrible. And then my face, I end up looking like Sloth from the Goonies.
And we get to hear about it all the time.
Not that I'm one to complain.
I even brought it up. Yeah.
Not that I'm one to complain. But like viburnum, a lot of native viburnums have like almost like a dusting on their leaves that like bother your eyes. So if you're messing in them, you have a little bit of a reaction where your eyes swell. I know our production manager was saying she was working in viburnums the other day and had an issue.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just funny, some of that, maybe that could be a future buzz. Natural
that's not a bad
defense
idea.
systems of native plants. So there you go. But that's off topic from what today's topic is.
Yes.
You wanna introduce the...
Yeah, so we mentioned in the beginning, it's the holiday season. We're in December 10th when we're recording this, and it's releasing tomorrow on the 11th. And a lot of people are, if they haven't decorated for Christmas already, are decorating for Christmas. And there's a lot of native plants that are used to decorate for Christmas that some people may not even realize are native plants. There's a lot of non-native plants as well, but you can make some pretty cool wreaths and bows and those kind of things out of native plants.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, I think, man, how long is it going back now? Maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, Don Knezik had brought in as a holiday treat for all the employees. He had brought someone in to teach us Christmas floral arrangements, and we all made a table arrangement, and we used a lot of non-natives but natives as well. So that's why I was thinking back to what was in my arrangement. To when we were looking at this. So we thought that would be a great way to how we could discuss other ways you can enjoy native plants.
And a lot of these species, while they're great for like Christmas trees and those kind of things, well, they're also why they're good for those kind of things is because they look really good in the landscape right now as well. So it's something to keep in mind that you can make a wreath out of them, but they also look good in your yard. Exactly.
So first one that I thought of was American holly, because that is evergreen. It is another one that's prickly to work with. But in the winter, I'm trying to think. Like, it does get a little darker, in my opinion. Like it gets like a sheen to it, like a color. So, and it's almost like a traditional Christmas holly, almost. Like I think when you think Christmas holly, I think most people think of English holly. What's that? Ilex aquapernii, but it's Ilex opaca does really well. It's got its winter foliage on it right now, and I think it's a nice dark contrast. It's not that light green. It's dark, so it helps things pop when you add it.
So another one we had on the list was Winterberry Holly, which is, I think a lot of people are familiar with as a great wintertime plant because it just has defoliated stems full of bright red berries, and it's another one that looks really cool, whether you just cut stems and put them in a vase or if you use it in an arrangement or a wreath or something like that. It's a plant that looks like Christmas to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's striking in mass, and the birds love it, and it's great habitat. It has so many great purposes. I was just thinking, I don't. There was when I worked at Princeton Nurseries, one of the houses by the nursery he was a former employee, and he created a hedgerow. He lived on a corner from two major roads, and did a hedgerow of Winterberry holly. And this time of the year, you can imagine it was striking.
Yeah.
Well, someone came and took it in the middle of the night and cut it all for cut arrangements. So he woke up one morning and it was just all gone. So that's how striking it is. Like when you see it, you can't help but to stop and pay attention to it. So Another one is red twig dogwood, Cornus sericea or Cornus stolonifera. This time of the year, it's defoliated, but the stems are red. Sometimes to facilitate that red growth, you have to cut it back every 2 or 3 years. So it's actually good if you cut that. It grows. It's still stoloniferous. It's going to spread. It's going to sucker and grow more. So sometimes cutting it actually helps facilitate better growth and better color. So if you can add that one again in a vase arrangement, just some nice color.
Yeah, and I've even seen. When I was doing some research for this, looking at pictures, they had a wreath that was just that, and I think it actually had some American holly at the base and like a bow, and but it was just kind of woven red twig together. Yeah, and that's another one that it is pretty cool to see, just how fiery red it can get in the wintertime. It's a nice looking plant.
I know there's nativars of that one where you can get, like, I think there's Arctic red, and there's a couple other where it gets more striking red. Select it for how red it gets over the winter. But if you could stay with the straight species,
and because the straight species is good for birds, good for wildlife. It's a good all-around plant, but it's also good in the winter.
Exactly.
We also had pitch pine on our list,
yeah,
which I don't think a lot of people would think of with Christmas time, but in New Jersey and a lot of the coastal East Coast, it's a native plant, and just because it's a pine evergreen, it's got the typical needle structure that you associate with a wintertime pine. It's a good substitute for some other evergreens in an arrangement or something like that.
You can use the cones. They more than likely they'll be closed, because that's one that's adapted. It kind of opens up the cones when it's set on fire. So if you want an open cone, if you can add some heat to them, you can probably force them to open a little bit and give you more of a traditional pine cone look in your arrangements. But it gives you a few different options there. We have Eastern Red Cedar, which we just kind of talked about. Just for greens, be careful. It is a little prickly, but it's that traditional, like, lighter green. You could take some sprigs and add that to a wreath, and I think that's good for an arrangement.
Yeah, I even forgot about the cones when I started talking about that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm looking at the cones on the shelf behind you, and that's what made me think of it. So we also had Eastern Red Cedar, which I mentioned a little bit before. Can be a little tough to work with, but it has a different look than if you're using more traditional spruce branches or fir branches. Yeah. And Atlantic White Cedar. The one thing with Atlantic White Cedar is it's timing for that one, because if you wait too late in the season, that one does tend to look brownish, or it can look almost dead. Like Eastern Red Cedar gets like a reddish tinge to it. Atlantic White Cedar gets brownish over the winter, so that's earlier. You may want to try that one out just to see on the arrangements at the time of the year. It's not going to last late into the winter for you. Like, I think now you can get away with it for the season, then you kind of have to get rid of it.
And I know from one of my friends who makes a lot of wreaths, she likes that one just because it doesn't hurt his hands. She gets a similar look, but it doesn't hurt her hands.
Very, very true. So, very, very true.
We had white pine.
Yeah,
which is native to, not necessarily right here, but in the northeast, definitely.
Yeah. And you get that whitish underbelly to the needles, so it's a little bit different color structure than pitch pine, but it's softer. The branches bend a little bit more, makes it a little bit easier to work with. That one's really popular with wreath makers, for someone who, like I said before, who doesn't want to have that typical spruce or fir look. It gives it a little bit more fuzzier, fluffier look, I guess. Yeah, I'd say so. And that's more of a traditional pine cone for that one, so you can use the pine cone for arrangements and other things. Sweet Bay Magnolia, that's another one that's semi-evergreen, so depending on the time of the year and the harshness of the winter, you can get, and that has a nice leaf to it, and it's a lighter green. I was actually thinking, I think my winter table arrangement that we made here, I had Sweet Bay Magnolia in
and
it.
Magnolias are really popular for those winter arrangements already, and that's just a native alternative that in some places it would work, in some places it might not work.
Yeah, if you're in a more southern climate, you're that's going to work.
Yeah, it's not that big magnolia leaf that people are used to. It's quite a bit smaller, but it would give that same aesthetic.
Yeah, totally. And then last one, I'll let you do.
The last one for our like northeastern kind of region, native plants for the winter was Staghorn Sumac.
Nice.
And I remember when we did a wreath class. We also did a wreath class here at the nursery.
Yeah.
I actually grabbed some Staghorn Sumac, the berry cluster, and kind of had that hanging off the bottom of my wreath. And isn't that definitely not a traditional use for a winter arrangement, but it was something that added.
But it fits. It's not traditional, but it definitely fits.
Yeah.
So you could start your own native wreath. Company there. There you go.
I also added a couple things because we have some listeners from the West Coast.
Yes.
And I actually saw a really cool picture of a wreath that was made out of redwood and I'm forgetting the other name, but it was one of the common names is California holly.
Okay.
And that was really cool because the California holly had the red berries and gave it some color, where the redwood was just that green backdrop that you have from a wreath.
Yeah.
And it was pretty striking. And actually, one of the things, I don't know how true this is, but they said the California holly is why Hollywood is called Hollywood.
Really?
So I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm going to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
And then further up the West Coast, that's when you start getting into your more traditional Christmas trees like the Douglas fir and some of those species, which a lot of wreaths are made out of already.
I'm not sure if concolor fir is native to that area.
Yeah, I'm not
sure. It might be, but that's another one to use that's probably more common to find if you can add that in. And it's funny that you did that. I was looking. It's surprising to me when you look at our listens. I know we talked about listens earlier. Most of our listens come from the Northeast because that's where we're located, and a lot of our guests are. California is like in our top 5 states for listens, which amazes me. I'm glad we're relatable.
I guess Southern California doesn't get our winter, so they just have 75 and sunshine all the time.
I'm just which is nice, But I'm glad it's relatable. What we're doing is relatable, at least to some of these other areas. So that was a good add-in on that.
And the last thing I brought up was actually shared through North Creek Nursery. They put it up on their Facebook earlier this week, and it was a way to get rid of invasives by using them in holiday arrangements. And they had stuff like Himalayan blackberry and the foliage from bamboo, English ivy, oriental bittersweet, wisteria, burning bush, and multiflora rose as things that you can use in holiday arrangements while you're pulling them out of your either the woods behind your house or places where they are invasive.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I know one of our listeners and who has been on the show, Rosalind Doremus, was saying she uses her Nandina every year. She cuts it back and puts that in arrangements and shared a picture, which was pretty straight. Because that's why that plant is so popular over the winter. It has such a striking red color. Yeah. So it's nice to see that if they are existing here, at least there's a use for them.
Yeah, and there was I know there's actually a lot of people who, especially with invasive plants, just all year, one of the things they advocate for, in addition to eat them, and like things like garlic mustard are things that you want to get rid of it already. Well, it's also edible, and you're not just wasting it. Which it's something. The invasives, in my opinion, are something that we can waste. But if you want to go down that road and forage a little bit, which is another topic we're talking about sometime in the near future, right around the beginning of the new year.
Yeah, it should be out before the end of the year, right?
No, that one will be in January, February.
Okay.
Is our goal right now.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
I think Dale Hendricks was one of the people I saw give a presentation about utilizing some invasives for as edibles while also pulling them up. I think I can't remember. There was another species he brought up, but it just came into my mind and vanished real quick.
With the amount of lack of food and starvation, I know it's something that we need to eradicate, but it'd be a shame to not, if it's useful and useful as a food source, to not at least take advantage of that use of it.
It was autumn olive was I've actually
all right
this is a little off topic, but it was it's one of the outdoors magazines, like outdoor, not one of the bigger ones, but it was like for mountain men type
Okay.
thing. It had a whole big article about autumn olive in it and how great it was and how we need to plant more. And they're like, some people might say it's invasive, and I was like, no. I know it's useful, but we don't want to advocate planting more. That was unplanned.
That was unplanned. Wow. Yeah, that's. You almost want to write an editorial rebuttal on that one, saying, "Hey,
yeah,
you know.
I think I did. I
Did
think
you
I
really?
wrote in and said you can't
can't
publish
advocate
something
that.
like that, advocating for planting more
for invasives.
Invasive.
That's just someone that doesn't know. But
Yep.
I think it's time. I think we completed that one. It's time for our next segment. We got to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
You can get with this, or you can get with that.
All right. So we do have a winner, but not without controversy.
Yeah, I thought I was well on my way to a 2-0 record in This and That.
I really thought so. At one point early on, I was like, maybe we ought to just stop this. If I'm going to lose every week, maybe.
But then
I'm
you
taking
caught
my
up,
ball
and
going
when we
home.
went into it, we were tied, and I made a post on our Facebook group. That's where the voting happens, is in the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. And I shared the post and said, hey, we need people to vote to break this.
The tiebreaker, and voting has increased. I know the last Buzz episode we said, hey, if you want this to continue on, not Raquel Welch actually commented in a 5-star review that she's loving this segment because it's kind of like a news update just for native plants. And it was nice to see that the voting increased and we were at a stalemate. And Tom posted it, and then next morning
we got more votes when I posted it.
Yeah.
But when I came in the next morning, the option for my article had vanished,
and the
it
only
was
ones
not
that
there
can,
anymore.
The only ones that can do that are Tom, myself, and the Pinelands Nursery account, which is operated by Tom and myself. So that means one of us inadvertently removed it. And I swear I didn't.
Originally I suspected foul play, and I still do.
I didn't. If I happened to have done it, which I don't think I did, because I didn't really see it after you reposted it. But if I did it, it wasn't intentional. Mm-hmm. It could have. If I did it, could have easily been myself.
I don't know if I believe you, but for the sake of the game here,
wait. Quickly after you pointed it out, I wrote in the post that people could still vote and just put it in a comment. We would accept it, but
no one did.
No one did. It was kind of at that point it was over. But I did win that one 9-8. So thank you.
But there's a big asterisk next to that in the record books. There's a big asterisk next to this win.
But I will say I'm happy that this many people voted and that it was that close, because that means that we're picking articles that pretty much people are enjoying. Yep. So hopefully we can continue. But I did say, even though there is an asterisk, I did win because
there can be only one.
But we have a whole nother round, and this one was pretty funny. Tom and I choose multiple articles because we never know if we're going to choose the same article, and we chose the same article.
Yeah, we went into it saying, hey, maybe we should just check to make sure we didn't choose the same one.
Yeah.
We do this every time. We make sure we're not choosing the same one, like the couple hour maybe before we start to record, and we both chose the same one. But basically, as in between episodes, every time I see something when I'm scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn or just going online and I see something that I think could work for this, I just save it as a tab on my phone internet browser.
Yeah.
And
I do the same thing.
So then I'll have a couple, and then when like a day or two before we're going to record, I'll pick out the one that I think is the best. And we just both happen to pick out the same one.
Yeah.
So, but we had backups. So we fell on our backups, and I think we still have pretty good articles for our backups too.
I do too. So do you want to, for each of us to do our article, or do we want to talk about the one that we both chose? We should mention it anyway.
Yeah.
I think. So it was an article through Yale, I think. Was it Yale University's website?
Yale E360.
So, and it was, let me just bring it up real fast because I don't want to misquote what it is. So, how non-native plants are contributing to a global insect decline. And it was more or less, it's a long article, but more or less it's based on work of Doug Tallamy and new research that he has just put out. So we both kind of felt that was fitting, considering we just had Dr. Tallamy on as a guest, and that his study is getting more traction. It's and we both were heading in that direction because one of our listeners posted in the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, like people opposing some of his research, which I didn't think it was a fair analysis. I think it was someone just trying to be someone just trying to be on the opposite side.
And not to get too off topic with that, but that article in particular, not the article we're talking about right now, what was posted in the group, I always dislike articles that criticize someone's opinion without putting forth a plan of action of their own and saying what they're saying doesn't work, but you got to at least supply your own reasoning of what will work. And they didn't do that.
And it wasn't, I think, a fair analysis of the entire thing. They picked out they focused on one segment, and it was kind of taken out of context. So I don't feel that it was fair. But I don't want to expand
this
on
article, the Yale E360 article, which was, we say, it was how non-native plants are contributing to global insect decline, didn't do that.
No.
It was actually very complimentary of his work.
Yeah, and that's why we both chose it. So so regardless, we had backup options. So would you like to go first? Oh, I get to pick.
Choose,
I'm going to go first. Originally I thought I was going to defer, and even though I'm a little better prepared this time, I still never feel fully prepared when we do this. So the article I chose is in Science Daily, and it was done by NOAA's Northeast Fisheries Science Center, and the article is titled Predator-Prey Interaction Study Reveals More Food Does Not Always Mean More Consumption. So why I found this article interesting was because it kind of goes back to what Dr. Sala wrote about in his book and when he was on the podcast about the relationship of predator and prey and having to have a balance. So in his book, Dr. Sala brings up the work of Russian scientist G.F. Gauss. I hope I'm Gauss, G-A-U-S-E. So I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He published a book in 1932 called The Struggle for Existence, and he had done work between paramecians and species of yeast. And he kind of figured out that the predator-prey relationship needs a couple things for balance, and that if you just put predators and prey together, the predators will eat all the prey, and then the predators will die. If you give the prey shelter to hide, they'll hide, and then the predators die. So the predators need to be able to roam. So the prey will hide, the predators will roam and pick off prey that's more accessible, and then once that prey's population becomes too large, the predators will come back and pick off the excess, and they live in harmony and balance. So humans are the only ones that will hunt till extinction, in nature this happens. So basically with new studies, they're finding out this is what's happening off the Northeast with fish communities. So if there's the right amount of predators, it kind of keeps everything in check. If the amount of prey goes up because there's not enough predators, it kind of throws the whole ecosystem out of whack. And they're not, just because there's more of them doesn't mean that they're being consumed. And then it throws off other things like plankton, and you get an unbalance. So they're just finding, even though this is kind of known scientific study, they're applying it to the local ecosystem so they can better figure out how to manage for offshore fishing and things like that. Hey, what do we need to worry about to make sure that this is a healthy ecosystem? So it's just new studies basically confirming a lot of what we've been seeing all over the world and how it applies to our native fisheries. So even though it's not plant related, it's kind of relatable topic.
Yeah, it's pertinent to something that we've talked about, and as we've talked about so many times. Even though it might not be plant related, it all relates back to plants.
Yeah, exactly.
With Dr. Sal, he's an algae researcher.
Yeah.
And algae, while not a type of plants,
Science,
are in that same realm. And but the fish are eating algae, they're eating plants, they're eating plankton, they're eating those kind of things. On land, plants are harvesting energy from the sun, and that's what is starting our whole food web is plants that are capturing energy and giving it to everything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how that study would work on land. Because in the ocean, while humans play a part, they don't play as large of a part where on land. And I guess when you're talking about the Dr. Gauze study, it was I started thinking about like the whole wolf controversy in Yellowstone. And I guess one of the issues with that is
that they roam.
Just outside of Yellowstone, you have, well, if they roam outside, we have farms. And that population is never going to diminish because the farmers are going to keep adding more.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a real controversy there, is because you have human managed animals, and then you have animals that aren't currently managed by humans.
Yeah.
And they're saying there needs to be management for both, there can't be management for one. But that's where I went off topic.
Yeah. No, but exactly. So it's just we're finding with anything, like when we talk about deer management, which is a topic that we discuss often on here, is, it all comes down to that predator prey, and there has to be balance in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
So it's nice to at least to see the scientific research being done, whether it's onshore or offshore, to those effects, because those are important effects that, if we want native plants, all these things coincide. So if we have to have a balance somehow. So I was just happy to see that this research is being done.
No, it's pretty cool.
Being funded and being done.
So my article was published in Forbes, and it's a couple weeks old now, but it was about the first nationwide effort to save wild bees and how they're enlisting citizen scientists.
I had not seen this one, but when you told me what it was and that it was a Forbes article, I was actually really excited.
And it basically starts out saying that there's a lot of resources and time and energy that's been dedicated to honeybees and their decline, which may or not actually be true. They might not actually be in this decline like we think they are, or like we've been told.
Yeah.
But there isn't a lot of research being done with native bees. And that's actually what we talked about with Sam Droege. He was really one of the first, if not the first person who's putting together a catalog of all these native bees.
Yeah.
So it really goes in line with his research. Nonetheless, these native bees are doing a lot of the pollination, not just on our native flowers, but on a lot of our crops as well. And they tend to be very efficient pollinators. Yeah. And so basically the U.S. Department of Agriculture created a grant for $380,000, and it's really to put together this monitoring group that's going to train people to go outside and how to look for wild bees in a standardized way. It's I think it's headed by University of California, Riverside.
Okay.
And when I visited this group's website, they actually had a bunch of different groups from all over the country that are already enlisting. Right now, they're only in the sign-up period, so you can kind of sign up to be clued in for when it actually goes live and when they start some of this training. But it's something that when we talked to Sam Droege from U.S. Geological Survey, he said this wasn't happening and needed to happen because not only do we not know exactly what's out there, we don't know what we've lost.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're never going to know what we've lost unless we start to catalog all this. So it's nice to see that there is, while $380,000 seems like a really big number, it's not as big as a lot of other things, but it's progress in the right direction to find out and monitor what these populations of native bees look like and the different species and all that.
And I have a feeling once they start finding out what it is that we are losing or have lost, they'll be able to get more money and that research will become greater. But we need that first step where the results are being posted that people can see, hey, this is an issue. We all kind of know it's an issue, but we don't know to what extent. We need the science behind it. So I have a feeling I'm going to read this article after I may vote for your article, Tom.
It's a fairly short article. It's not super long because it's brand new. This is started within the last couple months.
Okay.
But it's something that, like I said, we've needed or need to do now, or we won't know what we've lost. And it's a nationwide effort. Even I'm going back on their website right now. You had University of California Riverside was involved. You have people through BLM in Alaska. National Parks is involved. Quail Forever is involved.
Some great organizations.
There's people in Colorado, Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station. Let's see, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There's a lot of different.
That's a great cause.
Train people and then catalog what's out there.
It's a great cause. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
So we will post links for all 3 articles. We'll do all 3.
Yeah, we'll do all 3, and because then a vote for the 3rd article will be a vote for neutrality.
Yes.
No, we won't put that up as a voting option.
No,
we'll just put the link on our website.
We'll put the links for all 3 on the Native Plants Healthy Planet website, and then in the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, we'll put the links to both my article and your article, and you'll be able to vote.
You have to vote or you can only vote if you're part of the group. We don't put that out on our normal Facebook page to vote. So Join the group. You'll see all the great conversations that are going on there, and you'll be able to vote on really what's a popularity contest. Who do you like more, me or me?
So far, it's tied. It's neutral.
Yeah.
Although it was a 1 vote difference this time. Last one, you walloped me. Like, it wasn't even close. It was
the popular vote is in my favor.
Yes. Yes, you definitely won the popular vote. So, and we will post it, and that, I think, will conclude that.
And of course, the choice is yours.
So, typically now we would do questions, but we didn't get any questions.
Yeah, I was surprised that Saul didn't call back up.
I really thought the fact that we gave him attention would have encouraged. Not only am I surprised we didn't get a call from Saul, I'm surprised we didn't get 10 more calls from Saul because he would have definitely been encouraged to keep going. So I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of them. I'm sure there will be more phone calls from Saul. But
yeah, if you have a question, feel free to call in. We're happy to answer questions that come in through that question and answer line.
Yeah, we get a lot of those through the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. I don't know if it's you don't want your voice on a podcast or what it is, but it's a 30-second phone call. We'd love to answer the questions and be here as a resource. So take advantage of it while you can, because otherwise it might not be there. Same thing with the questions. If we have the question and answer line and no one calls in, it kind of ruins the purpose for it. So I wanted to bring up, I had this mailed to me. I don't even know how I got on the list, but the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society does their Philadelphia Flower Show every year, which is a huge retail. Like if you're in the Philadelphia area, this has been a huge draw for all. People come from all over the world to this flower show. It's one of the premier flower shows in the country. So I thought it was interesting that their theme this year is Habitat Nature's Masterpiece. They are saying, let me see, I'm going to read it right from their pamphlet. The 2021 Philadelphia Flower Show will explore nature from the majestic to the microscopic. You'll learn how to grow beautiful and hardy native plants, attract butterflies, birds, hummingbirds to your garden, increase biodiversity in the landscape, get skilled in gardening sustainability, and will be immersed in engaging activities as well as view acres of stunning displays. So I think it's nice to see it hitting a much larger scale. Like, this is something that typically focuses on ornamental hort. Yeah. So that from an education standpoint, this is huge. I really hope, because it happens in March, I really hope that because of COVID,
this year actually they moved it to June already.
Oh, okay,
and
fantastic.
They moved it outdoors. It typically takes place in the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia. And they actually moved it to a park, but I don't remember what park it is.
Wow.
But a park in Philadelphia. So it's a great time of year to be outside. Yeah. If COVID plays out like it did this past year, it'll be a better time in our area to get outside. And they've also said that the vaccine's rolling out, so if you're vaccinated, then and it should be widely available by June, I think is what I've been told.
If the theme is nature, I love that this show is taking place in nature.
Yeah.
If it's going to be in Philadelphia Park, which I know they have great stewards, and we work with a lot of those parks, and they do a lot of great work. So that's going to be a huge event. I would love to see that happen more often. I wonder if that will be more of a a trend. But I love seeing it on a national stage, bringing attention to people that maybe might overlook it. So I'll be curious to see what the lineup is, who's speaking. I would love if they don't have Douglas Talamy or Claudia West or someone like that speaking. I'd be disappointed. But I'm excited. I just thought I'd bring that up just because that's something you typically wouldn't see. But that's the type of when we're talking about making that circle larger. This is definitely something that should help do that.
And it's going to be an FDR Park in South Philly.
Okay, awesome. That's very cool. I'm excited. I may have to go.
Yeah, me too.
So,
I've never been.
I've been a few times, actually, when I worked for the Connor Pyle Company, which is also Star Roses, because they were one of the top 3 rose growers in the country at the time. We actually forced a lot of material for a lot of the local garden centers. So we would get passes to go there. I went, I think 2 years ago was the last time I went. And it changed. It was really, in my opinion, there's not as many. Most of the exhibitors are landscape contractors or like higher-end garden centers. And that higher-end garden center doesn't really exist like it did 20, 30 years ago. I think that's changing because of COVID. I think that's the focus has shifted. So I kind of felt like it was a little bit in decline from its glory years in the 80s and 90s. But I have a feeling it's going to come roaring back. So I'd be happy to be a part of that.
Cool.
What do you think? I brought the pod decks in. You want to do a
let's do
a card?
One.
You chose last time. I'll pick one. They should still be shuffled, so I'm just going to pick one out of the middle. I wonder if it's something we're going to be able to answer. It's just going to be like, nah. All right, let me see here. You can see I'm pulling them right from the middle. Desert Island, books, music, or movies? What do you want to do?
Oh, we have to pick one of the
we can pick one of them.
Why don't we pick one of each of them?
One of each? Okay. Do you want to keep it on? You want to try to keep it plant related?
Man, that might be a little. What plant related music is out there?
Oh,
You're the music expert. You probably know.
Yeah, not that I could think. Well, I was just thinking of a documentary that I watched that I was all excited about. Now I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one with the doctor about nutrition.
Oh yeah.
That I actually tried to contact to get as a guest, and I'm drawing a blank on all of it. I can't remember the doctor's name. I don't remember the name of the documentary. It was such a great documentary. I forget all of it. But it was. I went down a rabbit hole on Amazon Prime because there was a documentary about mushrooms, and when I clicked on that, it was all nature-related topics, and I was like, all right, let's watch one since I'm looking for something to watch, and I loved it. And now I don't remember anything about it. Not the name, anything.
Yeah.
That's
because you told me about it and I watched it and I didn't love it as much as you did. But I don't remember what it was called.
I don't remember.
This was a couple months ago.
Well, what a great podcast. Hey, here's this great movie. I don't know what it's called. Yeah. I don't know who's in it. But all right, so we could do books. Desert Island book, not books, book. You had to pick one. We could do plant related on that. You could only take one. You pick one of the books, and we've discussed numerous ones. Which one are you picking?
That is a tricky question. Yeah, I really don't know. It's I guess I'd have to probably pick Bringing Nature Home because that's an easy read and you get through it. Or Nature and Nature by Dr. Sal is a good one too.
You know,
I think if I brought Benjamin Volk's book, and this is no knock on him, I'd just be perplexed in my own mind.
But that might be a good one. You're on a desert island and you have one book. You could, I think, you know what? Now that you say it, philosophically, like we're all on board with the message that Dr. Sal brings and the message that Dr. Talamy brings. Benjamin votes is more from a philosophy debate that internally for the end of days, I think. Like, it's trying to make you think outside of the box, not just explain to you. I'm going to go with New Garden Ethic. Mm-hmm. That's my guess.
Yeah.
That's
if it was just open to any book, there's a book that I just heard is going to come out like in the next month. That's called The Meat Eater Guide to Wilderness Survival, or Wilderness Skills and Survival, by Stephen Ranella, who's another author I actually like quite a bit. But and he actually, that's the inspiration for one of our future guests about foraging, because he wrote a whole passage about foraging in that book.
Okay.
And we reached out to him, and it looks like we're going to have him on in, like I said, January, February.
All right. How about if it was just any book?
Oh, I think I'd bring that book.
That would be your book?
Saying. Yeah, that's my book, because I got to figure out how to survive on a desert island.
All right. I have my 3 favorite books of all time, and I don't know if I can pick one of them. So, and they're all over the place. Lord of the Flies, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and The Never-Ending Story.
Which I didn't know was a book. I
guess was a book first.
Should have assumed it was a book.
Yeah, I fell in love with the book a few years before. My older sister worked at a bookstore, and actually, when it came out, bought me a copy and said, you need to read this book. So I was in love with it before the movie came out. And it's a great book. It's more of a children's book, obviously. I was probably in junior high. Was I in elementary school or junior high at the time? But I don't know if I could pick between one of those 3, but it would be.
Yeah, I just remember from them, because I was a pretty young kid when I watched the movie, and I just remember seeing Atreus' horse go into the quicksand.
Yeah.
And that was very sad.
It's very sad, yeah. But it's a triumphant ending. Yeah. So, all right. Music, I can't pick music. I can't.
You can't, but my wife knows exactly what I'd pick. I listen to Sturgill Simpson over and over and over again.
All right.
In our house.
You're going to pick Sturgill over Jason Isbell? Or...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
He's the reason I got into like Jason Isbell and Tyler Childers and a lot of these other artists. That was the start of the wormhole for me to go down and get into it. So,
all right.
And it's a pretty good, just with his records, it's a pretty good variety, because he's got the like psychedelic country, and he's got old school country, and he's got then he has the whole rock album he came out with, and now he just released a bluegrass album. Yeah. So
there's a lot of diversity to it.
It's very diverse, and you're not just listening to the same thing over and over again.
I guess if I had to pick one, so for those of you that don't know, I'm a huge music fan. I actually had my own music blog. I had a internet radio show. I did 2 different music podcasts. So, and my tastes are really diverse. I have a infinity for old school punk and alternative new wave. But if I had to pick a desert island music, Jimmy Buffett. Why not? Why not completely embrace it? That might be like the perfect like island music. You just sitting there and you're like, all right, it's laid back, you just chill. I could do that. All right.
How about a movie for you? Because I don't know what movie I'd pick.
Man, I'm all over the place. So, Fight Club, or Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Those are 2 of my favorite. Totally different directions.
I just don't watch a lot of movies to have a favorite movie. And then I don't even know if I want to admit it, because my movie taste is like questionable at best. I like a lot of Will Ferrell stuff, and like I like Semi-Pro a lot. A lot of the movies that people
Semi-Pro is a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! I said one of my favorite books is The Never-Ending Story. Come on.
Yeah, it would probably be
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I haven't watched Semi-Pro in a long time, but I like that one. I like the other. I like a lot of the Will Ferrell movies. I liked movies that I didn't really have to pay attention to, but would make me like I could just start watching at any moment, and it would make me laugh numerous times. So like old school, even though Luke Wilson's the star of that movie, who would have thought?
Semi-Pro, I just saw for the first time this year and loved it for some reason. And I love Will Ferrell movies, just hadn't seen it, and then I was like, how did I not see this movie? This is hysterical.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say that's my favorite Will Ferrell movie though. I don't know if I could say what my favorite Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah, it would change for me, but that's probably where I am. I'd watch that movie, that and Blades of Glory. I probably watched those 2 movies more than anything else when I was in college.
That's a great movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, if you had to like take a toll, or if it was just the movie I watched the most, it's probably one of those two.
You know, I have a tendency. I have one of those personalities where I'll put a movie on. Like, I don't need something to go to sleep, but if I'm kind of tired and out of it, I'll put a movie on. But it's got to be something that I know, so I don't think about it. Yeah. And it's just like background noise, and I'll fall asleep. So Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince, I could probably quote that one from start to finish because it will just be background noise as I fall asleep. Because if it's something that I find too funny, I end up just watching it. You know, like I'll like, oh, I got to see this part. You know, but if it's something I know and it's familiar, it could just be on in the background. So Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Go ahead, challenge me on a quote on a future episode, and well, I'll quote it. So, you know, I have to laugh. I was just looking. I thought that we'd go about a half an hour on this one, 40 minutes.
No, definitely not.
We're just about at an hour.
Yep.
We're just about at an hour. So maybe we ought to wrap it up.
Yeah, we got way off towards the end of this one.
We did. That's okay. You know, every now and then, that's okay.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
With that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for joining us on Native Plants Healthy Planet, presented by Pinelands Nursery. I really completely missed my line there and just twisted it into my own thing.
Yeah, that's
so I'm
all right.
going to kick it to you.
You know, I got to say, before I do my part, we've been, for the Buzz episodes, you're not saying that our shows are scripted, but we write things that we need to discuss and notes for us to make sure that topics that we hit, like especially when we have a guest, there's so much we want to cover. We kind of outline it out. The Buzz is becoming, with the last one and then into this one, less and less. It's really just some bullet points at this point. So we didn't even know how we were starting off the show. Yeah. So I think all things considered, we did pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to. You know.
It's just the first line I had to actually read, just do verbatim. That's what I.
Because we haven't read anything this whole episode. Yeah. So, I'm going to put on the show notes for this one. You know, we always thank Stephen Marr for the theme music, and he was a winner when we started off the show. We didn't really have theme music. We were using something that we had bought, and we had a contest, and we chose Stephen, and we've been using Funky Road since then. We really want to give the Buzz its own identity, and we would love to have that competition again. No one has sent us any music yet, so if you want an opportunity to have your original music highlighted in Buzz episodes of the Native Plant Healthy Planet podcast, you can email us at info@nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. We want to choose a winner. We want to.
Someone's got to play some unique instrument, like the mouth harp or the spoons.
Spoon. There is a spoon lady. Maybe she's listening to this. She'll send in spoon music, but. Send us some original music. We'd love to highlight it on a Buzz episode. Make sure you're following us. Twitter, it's Pineland, no S, Pineland Nursery. Facebook, it's Pinelands Nursery NJ. There is a Pinelands Nursery FL, Florida, which is a garden center in Florida, and sometimes social media, they get a little confused. So it is Pinelands Nursery NJ. Instagram at Pinelands Nursery. And YouTube at Pinelands Nursery. Don't forget about the question and answering line. The number for that is 215-346-6189. I will repeat it one more time. 215-346-6189. Don't leave all the questions for Saul. Call in, leave a question or a comment. Even if it's a comment, say you like something, say you didn't like something. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're all for...
Or even just something for us to talk about. You say, hey, you know what? I wanted your opinion on... Well, why would they want our opinion? But I want you to talk about this thing.
Yeah. You know, any of it, just, leave a question or comment, and we'll play it and answer it on a future episode of The Buzz. So, and don't forget the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. I know we keep talking about it, but I'm really thrilled with the conversations going on there. So, and hopefully it will keep going after this episode.
So you can listen to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast directly at www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. But let's be honest, you're probably going to check us out through Apple Podcasts or Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you really consume your normal podcasts. We're on just about every one of them right now.
We're pretty much everywhere.
So leave a review. Those really help and like I mentioned in the beginning, share this with a friend. That's how we're going to spread this message about native plants.
Yeah.
And hopefully have some fun doing it.
A lot of new followers, which we're excited about. So hopefully we can keep them engaged and keep growing this community. But yeah, we're everywhere like an invasive at this point. So
So with that, thanks everyone. I'm Tom.
And I am Fran. Thanks again, everyone. Happy holidays. We'll be back for at least one more buzz before the end of the year.
We have some pretty good episodes coming up these next two before the end of the year, and then a wrap up with the buzz.
A wrap up with the buzz before the end of the year, and then some great guests scheduled for the beginning of the year too, plus the roundtable series. There's a lot of great stuff coming up. So we'll see you next time. Until then, keep it native.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.